Alright guys, this is Dr. McFarland, and in this video we're going to look at the Global Settings EQ. Alright, so first thing you have to do is press the three little dots up in the top corner, Global Settings. Then on page 2, you'll see you have a XLR out EQ and also an amp line out EQ. Now what I would use this for primarily is, let's say I had my settings dialed in here at the studio, and it was sounding good through my studio monitors or my FR floor wedge. But then when I got to the if I got to the session or band practice or the gig, and I felt like I wanted to EQ some frequencies out, then I could do that. And with the low band, so a shelf is going to be, like a slope, either on the bottom or the top, depending on if you're adjusting the low band or the high band. So let me cut over to the computer screen here, and I'll show you what that looks like real fast. Alright, so what we see here on the screen is a basic equalizer, and this is like a online, well, this is an on-screen mixer. But let's say I want to EQ something on track 6 right here. So first of all, you can see that this high pass filter is going to roll off lows and pass the highs. Alright, so but what we're going to see mainly in the Headrush is we have a low band, and this is the low shelf. Then we have a high band with a high shelf. Then we have a low mid and a high mid. So basically, you got the frequency, the gain, and then the Q. And the Q is what's going to be really important, since we don't have a visual readout of what we're actually doing with the Q on the Headrush. It's important for me to show you how this looks on a normal EQ. So here's my frequency going back and forth. My gain is going to actually bring it down a certain amount. And then the Q, watch the Q here. So the lower the Q, the flatter it's going to be. So somewhere around 5 is going to be like just a good natural slope. Then anything above 5 is going to give you, whoops, hit the wrong one. Anything above 5 is going to give you a peak at that frequency range. Okay, so it's still sloping, but it's also giving you a good peak right there. So if you want your sounds to be very natural, I would keep your Q fairly low, probably around 0.5 and below. But if you want to try and find a frequency, you can raise the Q up, sweep the frequency back and forth, and then wherever it starts getting really loud, you can just find it. Say it's around 88 hertz, just for example. So I'm going to just bring the Q back down, and now here's your 88 hertz, and everything below that is rolled off. Okay, same thing is going to apply for the high. So here's my frequency range, here's the gain. So my frequency can go back and forth, like that. And I think for most guitar speakers, they sit around 5 to 8K within range. So you can easily just kind of find a frequency, maybe bring the Q up, find where that peak is most prominent, and then just kind of stop there, then bring the Q back down. So that way you're rolling off some lows, rolling off some highs, and keeping the mids intact. Now you can even go a little bit farther. Let's say this is a very steep Q right here. Well, they call it deep and shallow. So there's very, very deep, and there's very, very shallow. And the same applies down here. So if you want to find a frequency that's kind of bugging you, turn the gain all the way up, make the Q as tight as it can go. Just kind of scroll back and forth and find that frequency, and then bring the gain down 1, 2, or 3 dB, somewhere in there. You can shallow out the Q a little bit. So it's just a nice soft curve of the of cutting that band. But anyway, this is more of a visual of what it's going to look like when you start adjusting your Headrush frequencies. Okay, so I hope that helps. Let's kick it back over to the Headrush.
All right, so we're back at the Headrush, and you'll see that if I start with 30 hertz, I can bring that down, you know, any number of dB, 1 dB, all the way down to 12 dB. Okay. So what that's going to do is just going to slope down, and then the Q is going to be how wide that slope is going to be. So you can have it be really gradual, or you can have it really drastic. If you cranked up that Q knob or that Q setting there. So that's what it's going to do. And what I'm going to do actually is just going to play. Let me put the looper on here. And so let me turn off all this. All right, that's pretty good. So let me play something. So all right, so let's go ahead and adjust the shelf, and this is on. All right, so here how thin it got. I went up to 500 hertz. And let's change the Q. Alright, so you can really hear what it's doing there. Let's change the Q back to a wider Q, more gradual. So 20 hertz, that's some pretty low rumble there. You really don't need to have that much. So even at 80 hertz, that's when most bass strings, the low E string on a bass, that's 80 hertz right there. So you could probably stand to bring it up a little bit. Just kind of use your ears. So I would bring it up until it starts getting thin, and then just bring it back a little bit. That should be pretty good. And then you can lighten up on the actual amount of cut you're using. Alright, let's do the same thing for the highs. Let's make this really drastic. Really drastic. And let's bring down. Actually, let's not have the EQ as drastic. See how dark it got? You can go all the way up to 20 hertz. Okay? So if you have some different IRs or different cab settings and you want them all to be about the same, you can adjust that in the global settings here. Now, if you wanted to go in a little bit more, let's say I wanted to find a frequency that just sounded weird. Let's change our Q to So this is the low mid's only going to go to 1,000 hertz. Alright, so let's just say that 680 was sounding kind of weird. So let's bring that down. And we're going to keep the Q really shallow. So it's just cutting out that one little section. Let's say we just wanted it to be very soft sounding. And not doing a whole lot. We can bring it down a dB. We can change the Q to be really wide. So it's kind of scooping out just a little bit of those mids. Alright, that makes sense. Let's go for the high mid. Let's do the same thing. Let's crank up the dB. Let's make the Q really shallow. Alright, so now let's adjust the frequency. Usually the bite of the guitar is around 2.5K, 3K, somewhere in there. So if you wanted to have some bite without having to be too bright, and I know that rhymes, but whatever. Let's just let's do that. Soften it up a little bit. We're just boosting a little bit. And what you can do is you can turn it on and off and see how it changes the sound. Alright, so you can hear that the low mids are cleaned up a little bit, the lows are rolled off enough, the high mids are just boosted just a little bit. So that sounds a little muddy to me. And that's a little more clear. Okay? So now if we go in, we just play normally. Save. So that's just going to be a global setting. So every time I turn that on and off, or the unit on and off, it's going to always be there. So... settings and off. Back to on. Alright, cool. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. It sounds pretty good to me. So now you can do the same thing on the amp line out. If you're using the XLR to go to your mains, and let's say you had a different speaker or a real amp you're using and you wanted to adjust some EQ on that, you could go through the same process and just find some good all-around settings that you like. Or let's say you find some good sounds with this EQ off, and so that way it sounds good at your home or in your own studio, and then when you get out to the gig, you'd be like, that sounds kind of strange. Let me flip on my EQ and see if it makes it better. And if it does, great. Then you've already got all the settings figured out, and you don't have to go through a bunch of tweaking to to change everything up. So so just think of it like a preset, cleaning up the mud kind of guitar sound that you can just turn on and off in different places. So but I'm going to leave it on because I think it sounds good. So anyway, that was messing with the global settings EQ. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to leave a comment in the comment section or send me a private message on Facebook or here on YouTube. And, I will be sure to get with you as quickly as I can. I am Dr. McFarland. I will see you in the next video. Keep rocking.